Welcome to You Should Know, a series about the things you should have been taught in high school, but weren't. In each episode, we'll dive into a topic that's important to understand and easy to implement into your life. We'll talk to experts, break down complex ideas, and give you the information that you need to make informed decisions. So whether you're looking to learn something new or just want to stay up to date on the latest news, You Should Know is the place for you. So give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, and let's get started. Okay, so we're going to get started. I am Danae Hicks with the Ellis County, Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. I am the Family Community Health Agent. I'm going to go ahead and let our guest introduce himself.
Thanks, Danae. So, hi, everyone. I'm Andy Crocker, and I'm an Extension Program Specialist for Gerontology and Health with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. And I'm actually up at the Research and Extension Center in Amarillo. And so I know all of y'all are kind of in Central Texas where it may be still fall, but we've transitioned to winter up here, and it's coming to you soon, and I'm excited for you. A little bit about me and about AgriLife Extension. So I am not a native Texan. I grew up in the great state of Louisiana. And now I live in a place with no trees and no standing water. I did not go to Texas A&M. I'm a very proud graduate of Baylor University in Waco, Texas, Sic Bears. And I generally am pretty relaxed when I present. So you can probably expect a pretty informal conversational tone from our recording here today. A little bit about AgriLife Extension. So a lot of people only know us for agriculture and horticulture, and it is true. That is where our roots are. Get it, roots? That's a joke. But we have very robust programs in human sciences, which is what brings me to you today. So I work with Danae and all the other county extension agents for family and community health around the state to support older adults in their communities, their caregivers, and the professionals who serve them.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. So we're going to hop in, if it's cool with you. The first thing we're going to talk about is why is it so crucial to create a safe environment for aging visitors during the holiday season?
Great. Well, first of all, it's probably important to create a safe environment for everybody all seasons, right? Like we want to be sure that, the knives are put away and the cords are put away and things like that, because something like a fall or an injury happens at any age at any time of year. So we'll just get that right out of the way. But there may be things that you need to look at if an older adult is coming into your home for the holidays. And, we get complacent in our environment. And so there are things even in my house that I see day to day. Oh, I need to pick that up, or oh, I need to take care of that. And I know they're there, and so I know I can avoid them. But when we've got visitors, and again, visitors of any age coming into our home, we may need to look around and say, okay, well, it's time to take care of that because they don't know about that. The creaky board or the door that sticks or something like that can get somebody into trouble. The other thing that I would say is it's probably just as important when you're going to someone's home. So let's say we're all going to load up in the car and go to mom's or grandma's, for Thanksgiving. It might be important to look around the house and make sure things are in check there, so that you can help make some repairs or do some pickup or something there. Now, it's going to be very important to do this in the right way, right? Like,
Right.
I can't imagine someone coming into my home and saying, you need to do X, Y, and Z. But maybe the way that goes is, hey, mom, let me help with X, Y, and Z. And in that way, it's not like a blame or an accusation. It's just something you noticed and you're expressing your willingness to help. But, take a look around your environment, make sure that rugs are secure, that cords are out of the way, that clutter is picked up. Don't give anybody any excuse to have a trip or fall, which is probably one of the most common unintentional injuries that we see in older adults.
Yeah. So you already touched on my second question a little bit about some common hazards that people might overlook. We talked about cords already, rugs, especially rugs if they don't have like the grips underneath them. I know those can
Right.
be dangerous. Are there any other ones that you'd like to bring up?
Oh, sure. I mean, where do you even start? Pets and small children, even. I know that the kids are excited to see grandma and grandpa come, but running up to them and locking around their knees, is maybe not the best way to approach them. Also, look at outdoors, right? Like, again, it's the leaves are falling here in Amarillo, and for the four trees that we have in town. But those leaves, you know, pile up on the sidewalks, and I can't tell where my steps end and where the sidewalk begins. And so there are a lot of things you can look at. And I don't mean to focus so much on falling, but these are the ones that this is one of the more controllable things that we can do, especially when it comes to injuries in older adults, is to look for fall risks and fall hazards and try to mitigate those. The other thing that I would say, and this is probably getting outside of my area of expertise, and may actually be more in your area of expertise today. But um, again, to go back to you going somewhere, I, in the last few years of my grandmother's life, I would walk into her kitchen and there's the potato salad that's been sitting out for, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's warm to the touch. It's
Yeah.
been out for quite some time. Food safety even is a big hazard around the home when it comes to the holidays. You eat the lunch on Thanksgiving, and then again, Granny gets out a dish towel and just covers everything up because we're going to snack on it the rest of the day.
Mhm.
No, 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 no. Those things need to be moved into proper storage and put in the fridge. So when you think about hazards around your home or hazards when you go into someone else's home, think outside the box a little bit, because that may be just as risky for someone, um, as something like a fall. The other thing that I would say, so mom and dad are coming, or we're going to mom and dad's, and there are small children. What's the medication situation around there, right?
Mhm.
Like, our mom and dad used to just having their pills out on the counter, or their pill sorter out on the counter where little hands could get into them. The other thing to think about with older visitors perhaps coming into your home is the importance of consistency and routine. And so if mom or dad or grandma or grandpa are used to taking a nap in the afternoon, it's probably going to be very important to maintain that routine, if only because they're doing it for a purpose, right? And uh, little things like that can make a big difference, but it does take a pretty big imagination to think about all of the things that you need to try to account for when you're going to have visitors for the holidays.
Oh, let's talk about some specific modifications that people can make in their homes. Maybe it's just changing the schedule or volunteering to put the food away after dinner for food safety's sake. What are some other modifications though that people can make?
Yeah, rugs, cords, clutter, all of these things that we've already kind of mentioned are kind of obvious things. Um, uh, Making sure there's good lighting, if they're going to be staying in the extra bedroom or something like that, and you haven't been in there in a while, go make sure like the lamps work. Go to the drugstore and buy a cheap nightlight that comes on. Um, when the lights go out, and perhaps you don't want it in the room, but maybe you put it in the bathroom so that it's easy to find in there. So I'm an automate everything guy. Like, I can control my whole house from my phone. But when we have guests, it's actually kind of a challenge because the timers are going on and off all during the day and night. And we actually have to take um, time to get all the lights off the timers so that our guests can actually use the lamps in their bedrooms. So there are little considerations like that that, again, day in day out, I don't really think about because it's not important. But I have to make some adjustments. I want to go back to this whole idea about leftovers, right? Because and again, to think about um, going into somebody else's home. I mentioned it before to be careful about the word you, and that is maybe the single greatest piece of advice or a key takeaway that somebody could take from this is to be careful about you statements, because a you is a blame or an accusation. You need to, you should, you ought to, blah blah blah, whereas an I statement represents your thinking from your perspective. Okay. So um, you need to pick up the house, or you need help around the house. I would like to help around the house. They both convey the very same message, but one is a finger point and one is a finger point, right? Like one's a blame or an accusation, is one is just expressing your feelings. And so with the leftovers, it's not, hey, you need to get this in the fridge because it's growing things, and I think those things have evolved a space program. It's, you know, hey, let's put this away. It's not a big deal to get it back out later. Or let me help you with this. So that it's kind of a collective thing, and we're being intentional about our language, and it's not a blame or an accusation. And the same thing with, if I go in and spot a hazard around mom's home, hey, mom, you need to take care of that. Or, hey, mom, you need to get somebody out here to fix that. It's, hey, let's call someone and get them on the schedule to come fix that. Or, hey, can I take a few minutes and get a hammer and some nails and nail this floorboard back down that's popping up and smacking me in the head every time I walk down the hall, or something like that. So, um, language is going to be very important when addressing some of these uh, key concerns. And then, the pet thing. If mom or dad or grandma or grandpa doesn't want Fluffy jumping up on their lap and running in between their legs, you may have to make some adjustments around that. Keeping them in a separate room, or in the kennel, or outside. Um, just try to uh, think through accommodations that you can make that aren't going to hamper your lifestyle too much, and they're going to improve the safety of your visiting guests. And then at night, you can do like I do when my in-laws are visiting, and you go in and close the door to the bedroom, and you kind of grit your teeth a little bit, and then you brush them and you go to sleep. Um, so you'll be just fine.
I really liked you talking about the I statements.
Mhm.
Um, because I know as a younger generation, like I'm the adult, but I'm still like the young adult, it's really easy for me to go, wow, y'all really need to like do whatever. And when you change that direction and you're like, hey, I'd love to help you organize the kitchen table, or I'd be happy to put dinner away so y'all can go take a nap and chill, like y'all helped make breakfast, let me put it away, sort of thing. It really
Yeah.
kind of changes that whole relationship and that conversation, which can be kind of positive when the holidays get a little stressful.
Yeah, and it even if the subject is sensitive, right, it helps remove like a layer of threat or a layer of accusation or blame or something. It helps to elevate the tone of the conversation, keep it a little more positive or a little less negative. But I'll tell you today, it does not come easy. We don't think like that. It's easy to default to a use statement, and it takes some thinking to get to the I statement. But this is also where, taking a deep breath, thinking through what you want to say and how you want it to come across can help you a little bit. And then, you know, just do the best you can with it. But yeah, I mean I look back so I live 11 hours from home, and there was a time in my life when I was younger and naive where I would go into Granny and Granddaddy's house or my other grandmother's house or go to mom and daddy's. And, I was there to fix things, right? And there are some things maybe that needed to be fixed, and there were some things that they didn't want me touching. And that can be very threatening. So be careful about that. And then the other thing is, you can actually seed that conversation a little bit, especially if you're going to be traveling for the holidays. Call them up. Hey, mom, I want you to make a list of the things that we need to take care of while I'm at the house next week. And so then you're letting them kind of guide what changes need to be made, hazards need to be addressed, uh, clocks need to be reset on electronics or whatever else might be blinking in the house or something that they need your help with. So, yeah, think through it a little bit before you just kind of launch into it.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So we've talked just in general about aging visitors and some things that we need to kind of just keep an eye out for. Are there any special considerations we want to take if our visitors have some cognitive impairments, dementia, or anything like that?
Yeah, so I think let's broaden that a little bit to just sensory things in general, right? Like if you know that Great Aunt Tilly can't hear a dump truck crashing through your living room, maybe putting her at the end of the table is not the best option. Let's try to arrange seating such that people can see and hear each other, and we don't want anybody to have that kind of sensory deficit. Um, Impair their ability to have a good time. With somebody who's experiencing some kind of cognitive deficit, maybe it's from some kind of dementia like Alzheimer's disease, maybe it's through something less serious like mild cognitive impairment, or depression can actually be quite common in older adults, and especially around the holidays, because it kind of brings all of these feelings of loss and um, if they've experienced losses before, it can bring that to. And aside from that, I'll tell you, one of my grandmothers had dementia, and we almost had to pry Thanksgiving from her cold dead hand. Like, she was not going to give it up, and when she did, she would sulk about it a little bit. And so, here we are all around the table trying to have a nice meal, and she's angry because she didn't do the meal. She couldn't really tell you what day it was, but she knew that she didn't prepare that meal that we were all sitting around eating. Anyway, there can be a lot of things going on even without some kind of cognitive impairment. But let's get back to your question. So I think one of the most important things is to try to make it easy, right? Try to make it such that there's not a whole lot of opportunity to get additionally confused. And so one of the things that we see with people with dementia is they need order, routine, schedule. We need to try to minimize distractions. And so, as you're coming together. Um, there's maybe a football game on in the living room and the radio on throughout the house, and all of this side conversations going on with a whole bunch of new people. There can be a lot going on. And so if you know that that's going to be an issue, try to minimize that, try to lessen the distractions, try to focus one thing at a time. The other thing is to maybe put together a schedule, and brief it and post it somewhere, so that if there is repetitive questioning about, now when are we going to do this? Now what is going on today? We can go and we can cover that the thing that we've written on the grocery list or whatever to line out what we're going to do today. Um, some other considerations you might make are name tags. And so you know, you and your 14 siblings and all of their dozens of children are going to get together. Everybody's going to wear a name tag, right? Because it'll help mom do better with recognizing people, or it makes her feel less anxious because she doesn't have to remember a name. All she has to do is walk up and read the name on your name tag. You can accomplish the same thing with like place cards at the table for for the meal, and maybe you put mom between two people that she knows best. And I don't mean to pick on ladies here, right? Men get dementia too. Men have challenges too. It's just older women outnumber older men like 3 to 1. So if I'm talking to someone about something, it is generally about mom or grandma or great aunt Tilly. So uh, take some time to think through that, and also be aware that just like social engagement and holidays are stressful and exhausting for you, they're stressful and exhausting for that other person. And so be careful about not trying to cram too much in. Have some downtime, some opportunities to rest and relax, and maybe you even prompt that, hey mom, let's go in the other room and just sit and chat for a minute. You don't have to say, hey mom, you need to take a break because I can tell you're getting exhausted, but be clever about it. And so you go and maybe you do something else. You can also use something like this to your benefit if someone has dementia. There's a a I'm losing my words here, but don't worry, it'll come back to me in a minute. There's an intervention basically called reminiscence, and it's where we leverage the ability of someone with dementia's recall of the past to impact the present. And so you might have family photos and things like that that you could flip through, and it, in addition to it being a bonding thing, it can be an asset based um, task for the person with dementia, because again, they may still be able to remember 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and they may very much enjoy seeing those old photos and kind of doing that together. So you can actually use um, some of that to maybe help. And there's a great time to do it, because some of those people may still be in the room there. I think another thing, if we're going to do a key takeaway on this, is to go back to language, to be very thoughtful about your language and be careful about, well, don't you remember? Um, well, no, maybe they don't, because they have a dementia diagnosis. Don't you remember that? So be careful about some of those words that can crop up in conversation, but may not be appropriate in that instance.
Yeah. One of the things I know we do with my husband's family, because I also live 13 hours away from my family. So we don't go home very often on the holidays to see them. But when we go out to my husband's family, we purposely have a stool that just lives in the kitchen. So that
Mhm.
anytime Juju needs to sit down or take a break, we always hang out on the bar and sit in those bar stools. And if we're sitting and we're not being like busybodies and moving around and stuff, she's more willing to sit down and chat with us in between checking on things in the oven or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I love that, because you're almost giving a permission structure for it, one, but then the other thing is you're modeling acceptable behavior by you just kind of sitting around. You're letting her know that she's it's okay for her to do that as well.
Yeah, it's been it's been helpful, and it hasn't been a super new discovery, but whenever we kind of realized that giving her that kind of unsaid permission just to kind of hang out, it was really nice.
Yeah.
So we're about to wrap up. You've said a couple key takeaways using those I statements, maybe using technology to your advantage or not. Digital picture frames, I know, are
Yeah.
huge. And those are really nice because they can just flip through the pictures. Is there anything that you super want to highlight before we wrap things up?
This can seem daunting. It's not. I mean, it is, but it's not. I mean, there are no right and wrong answers. Just do the best. I think I mentioned earlier, think outside the box. I don't think outside the box. I am a very linear thinker. It's order, list, rehearsal, structure, routine, all of these things. That is me. But I do like to say that the box I think in is pretty big. And so, even if you're not an out of the box thinker, just take a moment when a situation arises or when you're unsure about what you should be doing, and just think through it for a second. Take a breath, you'll be fine. And then think about next time, right? Like it's not about, oh no, I didn't know what to do in the moment, or I did the wrong thing. Um, there's another set of holidays like 3 weeks from now, right? So there's a great opportunity to maybe take what didn't work well, and try to optimize that for next time, or to take what did work well and figure out how you're going to do that again in a few weeks so that everybody has a really good time. But just the holidays are stressful to begin with, and we want to acknowledge that and give ourselves a little bit of credit for that just going in, and then we want to try to do the best that we can, whether we've got older visitors coming into our home or we're going to see them in theirs.
Yeah, that was a great wrap up. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with me this morning. I know you're busy being a specialist and doing all the specialist things. So thanks for carving out a little bit of time with me and hanging out and sharing the importance of safety for the holidays, not just for our aging individuals, but really thinking about some ideas to help them out a little bit.
Glad to do it. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy. This has been You Should Know. Don't forget to leave us a thumbs up and a comment about what you learned today. We're so glad you stopped by. And as always, if you'd like to reach out to us, email us at youshouldknowwithdanae@gmail.com. We'll see you next time.